Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the regular open meeting of Osoyoos Town Council, Monday, May 16th, 2011, 2:00 p.m. in Council Chambers. First item of business would be adoption of minutes. We're looking at the Committee of the Whole minutes from May 2nd, regular open minutes from May 2nd, special open minutes from April the 28th, and public hearing minutes from May the 9th, 2011 for adoption. Is there any input from Council on those four items? Hearing none, we shall move adoption by consensus. Business arising from prior minutes. Any business arising? Hearing none, we'll move into introduction of late items. There are 4 late items to be added to the agenda. We have a report from the community planner to be added as a part of business item number 2. There's a report from the Director of Corporate Services to replace a report under Bylaw item number 4. There's a contract award of the Northwest Sector Sewer Project Phase 3. This will be added under business as item 9. And a request for additional bylaw enforcement budget to be added under business as item 10. Could I have that motion, please? Councillor Rhodes, Chadsey, all in favor, opposed, carried. Bringing us to the delegation portion of the meeting, and we have Mr. Matt Hassen and Ken Favorhold from the Osoyoos Museum Society to do a presentation on the upcoming referendum. Mr. Hassen, please.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. With help from Michelle, we will work our way through the presentation. First of all, on behalf of the Osoyoos Museum Society, we would like to thank you for this opportunity, but we would also like to acknowledge the leadership role that Mayor and Council and Mark Pendergraft as Director of Area A have provided in this process. We would not be where we are had it not been for that leadership, and we do appreciate it. We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. When we began work a year and a half ago on trying to find a new home for the Osoyoos Museum, we looked at 11 different possibilities, including the building of a new facility, and we looked at existing facilities. We decided to go with to try to build a new facility, but the cost was prohibitively high. And the only existing facility at the time which was suitable was simply not available. However, in November, that changed. And as a result, we are looking at a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a property that would be ideally suited for the purpose of a new museum and archive, and a property that is now available with public approval through the form of a referendum. So what would we be buying? We would be buying the 4 small lots on Main Street. Here we go. The 4 small lots on Main Street, which includes a solid 30-year-old building with approximately 6,000 square feet of space per floor, that could be readily converted into a museum and archive at a fairly economic cost. We would also be purchasing one of the larger lots immediately behind the building, which would provide 22 much-needed public parking spaces. So that's what we're proposing to the public that we get approval to buy. What will it cost? This is always the question, and we have a very clear answer. The land and the building would cost $1.26 million. And while I, for one, find that still a great deal of money in this day and age, when you look at it from the point of view that the land that we're looking at, the 4 small lots on Main Street and the large lot behind for parking, is probably worth between $500,000 and $600,000 alone, which means at $1.26 million, we would be acquiring a very solid building for in the area of $650,000. 12,000 square feet of building at $650,000 means a building that would be less than $50 a square foot, a fraction of new construction cost. What would it cost the taxpayers? The cost of repaying that $1.26 million loan would be $105,313.01 per year for 20 years. Or If we divide by the number of properties in the town and in the rural district, it would amount to $20.96 per property per year on a parcel tax basis. Now, the cost to develop the building into a museum and archives, we are estimating in the area of about $350,000 to $400,000. But we're stressing with everyone as we go through presentations in the community that that will be covered by matching grants and donations and fundraising and will not be a cost to local taxpayers. So what we are asking local taxpayers to consider approving is the $1.26 million for the purchase of the building and land. Beyond that, we can handle the rest of the costs ourselves. We've designed and launched a referendum campaign. We are well into it because the referendum date is approaching on June 4th. Here are a series of the activities that we have made as a part of our plan. We put information brochures into homes and businesses. We have posters in public places. We have developed a Friends of the Museum campaign, and Councillor Ryan, I thank you because you are wearing the button. Now, this cherished button can be obtained quite easily by either being a member of the Osoyoos Museum Society, volunteering at the museum, or for a $2 donation. But we would hope that members of the community would feel free to become friends of the museum and share that in the form of wearing the button. We've done a door-to-door contact with businesses to answer their questions and see if there is any other information they need. We've been available to speak to groups on invitation and in fact have spoken to 7 groups so far and are hoping to speak to at least one more. And so if there are groups that would be interested in a presentation, Ken and I are prepared to meet with any group of 3 or more on any occasion and explain what it is we have in mind and answer any questions they may have. We've had open houses scheduled at the museum. I think, as you know, we had one on Saturday the 14th, and we had a good attendance. But on the 28th of this month is our second open house. They're free. They're from 10 to 4 in the daytime. And on the 28th, the Kettle Valley Brakemen have agreed to come as a donation to us and do an hour and 15-minute performance at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which is also free. But it is a way of getting people into the museum and showing that we have a great collection and it's getting better as we speak. We've had articles in the local newspaper, we've had local radio coverage, and we have a telephone campaign contact program in process. So what's been the response to date? Well, there's been a growing awareness of the proposal. Although for some of us, it seems hard to believe that people have missed the coverage in the newspaper and the various other things, we continue to discover residents of the rural area and the town who are unaware of what it is we are proposing and what it is that it would mean. And so we are redoubling our efforts to increase that awareness. There have been a lot of good questions, and we've been able to answer them all, I believe, to most people's satisfaction. Now, that doesn't mean that we've satisfied everyone's concerns, because people hold different views and opinions. But generally speaking, the response has been largely positive and supportive. And I think that that is a real testimony to the community of Osoyoos and District, because I think a number of people are seeing what we see, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to provide a new long-term home for the museum and archive at a price that's not unreasonable in terms of the cost to the public. The bottom line is that residents who support the proposal need to vote yes on June 4th, or the 2 advance polls that will happen on May 25th and May 28th. All of the good support we've received is only counts and is only tangible if it goes in the form of a yes vote on the referendum. And so we would urge people, if they support what we're proposing to do, to make an effort to get out and vote yes on June 4th. If you have a problem with transportation, there are 3 telephone numbers going in the paper next week, and you can call and we'll try to arrange transportation for you. And the final bottom line is that on June 4th, a vote to ensure our rich past has a promising future. And so that's what I would ask people to consider. So I thank Council very much for the opportunity to provide an update. I thank Council for its support to date, and we hope come the evening of June 4th that we will all have a positive outcome to the process in hand. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Hassen. I'm sure Council appreciates all the work you've been doing on behalf of the Museum Society, and Council is also very pleased that we went to referendum. We're taking this to the residents of both the town of Osoyoos and the rural area, which again doesn't happen very often, where we bring both of them together on this referendum. It's a bit of a large step, and we will certainly hear from the people that live here how they wish to address the museum question. And I think it's a good buy, and I think it's a good move for the towns. Council, any questions? Comments? Councillor Chadsey.
Thank you. Great job, Matt. Can you just tell us, for the sake of the public, where the referendum, where they vote?
Yes. The advanced polls on Wednesday the 25th and Saturday the 28th will be here, and I believe in council chambers, or at least at Town Hall. The referendum on June 4th will be at the Senior Center, and when people arrive, they will come in. There will be two tables, one for the Town of Osoyoos and one for Area A. And so residents will go to their appropriate table and sign in and get a ballot to vote. The times will be from 8 in the morning until 8 p.m. for both the advance poll and for the general voting on June 4th.
Thank you. So that's May 25th, May 28th, Town Hall, June 4th, Sonora Center.
Right, Senior Center. Next to the old museum, or at least the old museum.
Any other comments, Council? Hearing none, thanks a lot.
Thank you kindly.
Next business item is water issue, looking to pay some water accounts in the amount of $29,816.43 for approval. Councilors Laranjo Morera, any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving into the correspondence portion of the meeting, there's the regular monthly report from the Okanagan Basin Water Board regarding the May meeting. Motion to receive, please. Councillor Chadsey Rhodes. Discussion, hearing none, adopted by consensus. There's an email here from Vertec Diversified Services, which is our work zone provider in the town of Osoyoos, requesting a letter of support for their proposal to continue providing employment services under the new BC employment program. What are Council's wishes? Councillor Cronmiller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would propose that we send a letter of support to Work Zone and to Client Care and the Community Service Coordinator.
Okay, and Councillor Ryan, was that the seconding on that? Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, that would be adopted by consensus. Correspondence number 3, a letter from the Ministry of Public Safety and the Solicitor General advising Council that the town of Osoyoos may exceed 5,000 population in the 2011 census, and this will result in the town being responsible for providing policing services to the amount of 70% of the real cost. We've had these threats before. I guess they're real. They have our projected current population at 5,200. I don't think that that's true, but I guess we'll know we won't know the end of this month, but the census is out there right now. I think if I recall the 2006 census, we got those results right around UBCM, I believe. So we'll have them in about September when they get tabulated. If we are over 5,000, it has significant meaning to the town of Osoyoos. The last time we crunched the numbers, it was an approximation of a $700,000 bill to pay for our 70% portion of the policing. So if we are over, there again, and that 700,000 is probably 800,000 or more by now. That was a 5-year ago figure. So it could have, as I say, major consequences. This is a letter that we should be recognizing both as a town, our tax structure, and certainly to our financial administration folks, because we're going to have to do some planning here, and that is the intent of the letter, to give us this forewarning. Council, for any input, please. Councillor Ryan.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to move that we refer this to a meeting of the Committee of the Whole for discussion, because I think it also has some implications for a possible resolution that we might put forward to the UBCM about what would be equitable payment at what population cutoff these sorts of things should start. And we're aware that there's also a contract negotiations that continue, and so I think it deserves a little specific attention from council, and I'd like to then ask that we move it to a Committee of the Whole meeting.
Okay, we'll do that as a resolution then. Is there a seconder for that, please? Councillor Rhodes, any discussion on that? I guess as a part of that discussion, what we should do then is bring out the past UBCM minutes, because this issue has been on there many times, and it seems that every time one of the small communities in British Columbia reaches that 5,000 mark, it becomes an issue, but then we never stand together on it. And then when people start paying it, they're saying, well, we're paying it, now you have to start paying it, sort of thing. And we sort of get singled out, and I don't think there's ever been a united front on this issue. But in my mind, all people of British Columbia should be all paying the same thing for police, whether you live in a city or whether you live in a very small rural area. We all use the police. We all use them to the same extent, and surely we can pay a uniform price for that police protection products. I would certainly be willing to move towards situation. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. That. So we'll talk about this at the COW and see if we can dig up some previous attempts from communities around the province to deal with this. The fourth item under correspondence is a letter from the Rural Coordination Center inviting council to attend the second annual Rural Emergency Continuum of Care Conference at the Delta Grand Resort. And there is a suggested resolution, council. And the suggested resolution is that council send the Community Development Manager as a delegate to the second annual Rural Emergency Continuum of Care Conference. So do we have that resolution? Councillor Cromwiller?
I'll move that resolution.
Okay, and this would be to send Mr. Newman to that conference. Seconder, Councillor Chadsey. Any discussion? Hearing, Councillor Ryan.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I read this over, and it looked to me like the letter was mainly asking us to sponsor a table, and then the rest of it seemed to be largely for physicians of various kinds and disciplines and specialties. Is it the intention of the mover and seconder that we would be sending just one person to attend the whole thing, or try to get a little more clarification? Because it seemed to me a good thing to have perhaps the mayor and someone else accompany him to and have this table where these hungry for food doctors come, and maybe hungry for relocation as well, and we could talk to them and sell the amenities of our community.
Well, that's always a possibility that we could look at. Yeah, we used to have when we're closer to Destination Osoyoos, we actually had a medical team out there that was quite active in doing some recruiting. Maybe we should have a look at that. But I think with the resolution on the floor, that would be to send Mr. Newman as staff, so we can start there and see who else is available to go. But yeah, if this is a recruitment program, well, that would certainly fit into what we could. So, any further dialogue on Mr. Newman attending? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And we will have a look at that as council.
Yes, I'd like to do that because, as I say, I think that there's something to be gained from this opportunity.
Okay. And that brings us into bylaws. And the first bylaw up is the Osoyoos Regional Context Statement, the RCS Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw, number 1230.10/2011. And we are looking for the staff recommendation here that this be read a second and third time. Oh, Mr. Cunningham, were you going to present this? Oh, wonderful.
Okay, just a bit of background behind this amendment. The OCP amendment in question will add a regional context statement into our OCP showing how it supports regional growth strategy policies for the South Okanagan, or as necessary, will be brought into consistency with them. The South Okanagan RGS was approved by the Regional Board on April 1st, 2010. The Local Government Act requires that a local municipality covered by the RGS must, within 2 years of its adoption, forward a regional context statement for approval by the board. That's the regional board. Osoyoos will be the first municipality in the South Okanagan to take this important step. Attached for inclusion in the OCP are, and this is in the package available to all of Council, a new Chapter 4 Regional Growth Strategy incorporating our regional context statement and which replaces existing Chapter 3 OCP. A new Chapter 5 Town Growth Strategy which brings our OCP into consistency with RGS policies for protecting the agricultural land reserve. This new chapter replaces existing Chapters 4 and 6. The opportunity was also taken of adding other text refinements into the new chapter and reorganizing some OCP content to improve readability. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are moving forward with a second and third reading. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Cronmiller, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, opposed, carried. And again, Mr. Cunningham, the climate action planning, this is planning official community plan amendment bylaw 123011. This was also for a second and third reading.
Okay, this OCP amendment will further recognize and promote two interlocking climate action plans for Osoyoos. First, as signatory to the 2.7 Climate Action Charter, Council has adopted the Osoyoos Corporate Climate Action Plan 2.11, showing how it will become carbon neutral in its municipal operations by 2.12. Including taking actions to reduce GHG emissions and purchase carbon offsets to cover any shortfall. Second, as required under the Green Communities Amendment Act, Bill 270208, the Local Government Act, Council has adopted the Osoyoos Community Action Climate Action Plan 2.11 as a basis for including targets in the OCP for the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions and policies for the town to achieve those targets.
Thank you. So resolution for second and third reading, Councillor Chadsey, Councillor Ryan. Any discussion? Bylaw. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed, carried. And that brings up the Water Conservation and Stage Restriction Bylaw, number 1273/2011. And we'll have a report from Director of Corporate Services, Ms. Van Vienen.
Thank you. Council gave second and third readings to Water Conservation and Stage Restriction Bylaw number 1273/2011 at its regular open meeting of May the 2nd. This bylaw puts 5 stages of restrictions that Council can put on the use of water through any time of the year. However, there is a stage of normal that is no watering or sprinkling between the hours of 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. every day. There is a permit process available for people that need it for special reasons, and this bylaw is now being presented for final adoption and will come into full force and effect.
Okay. Thank you. So resolution to adopt. Councillor Chadsey Rhodes, any discussion on this one? been a little bit of controversy around town. I've had a few comments on it, but interesting enough, there's also been some interest from other communities that wanted to already piggyback on this, see what we were doing on the measures that we've taken on the 5 steps. No discussion, all in favor? Opposed, carried. We now have a water conservation and restricted bylaw in place. And the next item is the Parks and Community Facilities Bylaw, number 1278, 2011. And again, the report from Director of Corporate Services, Ms. Van Vienen. Also, there has been some input into this around town. I've heard, because mostly about the smoking issue, I believe. But certainly there has been some freely given input. So, Ms. Van Vienen, please.
Okay, thank you. And just for clarification, the bylaw that was given out at the time of the agenda, the electronic version, is the wrong version of the bylaw that's been printed for council, the new version that includes the smoking regulations. So that is the bylaw that is being put forward for adoption this afternoon.
Okay.
Council did give second and third readings as amended to this bylaw at the last council meeting, and this amendment does include the smoking regulations in the parks.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Discussion from council. No discussion, Councillor Ryan?
Well, again, Mr. Mayor, I too have had a few discussions about the smoking, but you know, it's interesting that we all remember the last fire we had, and we remember a couple of years ago we had fire up on Strawberry Creek Road, and that in itself shows how important it is on our trails and out of our manicured parks. But there's a very, very strong feeling among people that through surveys that are taken that you know, they are in favor of restricting smoking to your personal areas, and so therefore I think it's we're certainly in line with the thinking of the majority of citizens. And I was really happy to you know, our new premier is saying a lot of the right things, and I think she was recently talking about putting nicotine patches and some of those non-smoking materials to assist people to break this addiction onto the list of materials that are and aids that are covered by the medical services plan. So, you know, I think we're moving in the right direction. We may just be a step ahead of some, but I think we want a healthy community, and that's why we're doing so many of these things. And we want a sustainable community, and we want to have citizens who are healthy. That's why we had a big walk this past week, and we're doing all kinds of things, trying to get people to use our facilities for their own health and welfare. So I think we're on the right path, and I'm sure that people will comply and will see the wisdom of it.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Rhodes?
No, I won't comment on this time because I'd just be echoing what Councillor Ryan so well put. Just to bring attention that this bylaw is not just about smoking. There's many other components of it. Very interesting reading. And I'd like to really compliment Councillor Cronmiller for bringing in the smoking portion of it. And of course yourself for the wording of this bylaw. I like everything about it. It's one of the few bylaws that just kind of came and went, and it's just a really, really good thing for our community.
Thanks, Councillor Rhodes. And again, it does offer us a few more tools in our bylaw enforcement and the ability to actually remove people from the park, or actually remove possessions that are left in the park, and just again some more tools dealing with issues in our parks and other public areas. It's a good move moving forward again. So, any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, it is adopted. Thank you, Ms. Van Vienen. Moving into the business portion of the meeting, under Business 1, we have some out-of-town expenses for myself, and Councillors Cronmiller and Ryan. Mayor Wells in the amount of $400, Councillor Cronmiller in the amount of $400, Councillor Ryan in the amount of $200. These are the per day out of pocket expenses, out of town expenses at $100 a day. Ted and I and Councillor Cronmiller and I and Councillor Ryan attended the Southern Interior Local Government Association Conference in Merritt at the end of, beginning of May, 4, 5, and 6, I believe. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It was a very worthwhile conference, and this is setting the tone and setting the stage and bringing forth resolutions that we would pass there. They get gold star status, and then they'll head to the Union of BC Municipalities Conference at the end of September, which I believe is in Vancouver. I guess.
Yes, it is.
Here, yeah. So this is part of our local governance, and it involves communities as far east as Golden and Kamloops, Cache Creek, around through Princeton, and all the areas in between, the Kelownas and Vernons and Pentictons, and we're sort of the anchor down here at this end. So this is our local government association, and Councillor Cronmiller got re-elected to the board of directors there, so we have good representation there. And then Councillor Gary Litke from Penticton that sits in our regional district table. He also got elected to the board. So I always like it when we have good representation on the board of directors. It sometimes helps. Very successful with our goose bylaw, or not. But it is a good organization, and well worth it. So looking for a motion to approve those out-of-town expenses. Councillor Rhodes Chadsey, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And that brings us to business 2, request for proposal. This is a design build dock construction, Lions Park Marina. Mr. Steve Shannon from Planning and Development.
Hi, everybody. The attached staff report dated May the 2nd, 2011 provides the background information on the design build tender process for the marina dock construction. The process was shortlisted down to 2 contractors, Burton Marine Pile Driving Incorporated and Grayback Construction Limited. Following a review of the design build tender submissions and interviews with both of the contractors.
Isn't this the retaining?
No?
No? Okay. Need to get the right. Put in the new agenda. Okay. Good. Sorry.
Okay, so moving on, following a review of the design build tender submissions and interviews with both of the contractors, the RFP review committee felt that Grayback Construction provided the best value to the town. Again, this is back to my original report dated May the 2nd. That original staff report recommended that council award the project to Grayback Construction Limited for a price of $355,912, subject to funding being received from Osoyoos Shoreline Developments Limited. This was based on the quality of their products, their construction methodologies, qualifications, past experience, and the fact that they were the lowest bidder. So the overview of this here report that you have in front of you, the purpose of this report is to provide council with the required information to make decisions on the following. First of all, the scope of work to be completed at this time, and second, to award the tender. Okay, moving into the scope of work. Following direction from council on May the 2nd, 2011, both of the contractors were requested to submit revised tender bids on the following 2 variations of their original design build tender bid submission for the marina dock construction. So the first revised submission was a revised price to build the full length of the central marina dock across the back of the lagoon, but with only 8 fingers. That would provide 16 slips located in the southern half of the lagoon, This would include the pedestrian ramps and gates at both ends, and it would also include the boat launch dock and the access ramp for the boat launch dock and the installation of all of the piles required for the whole project. The second revised quote was a price to build only half of the central marina dock section across the back of the lagoon. This would include 205 feet of central marina dock, but with only 8 fingers, again with 16 slips, but with only one pedestrian ramp and a gate at the southern end. This option also includes the boat launch dock and the access ramp and the installation of all of the piles required for the whole project. So it's important to note that this design build tender process and all of its components are not designed the same, and they're not the same quality of products. For example, staff are of the opinion that the foam-filled flotation billets included as part of Grayback's tender submissions are of a better quality than the product being proposed by Burton Marine. Also, it's worth noting that as part of Grayback's proposal, they will be installing galvanized steel flotation billet tank guards to protect the billets from contacting the lake bottom during low water levels. And Burton Marine's proposal does not include this component as part of their proposed dock construction. Staff were impressed with the galvanized piano-style hinges that were going to be fabricated by Grayback and used between all of the dock segments and finger joint locations. Both of the contractors have designed the wood superstructure to be constructed out of red cedar, and they'll both be using 1.5-inch fiber-reinforced plastic decking materials. So the options are to either go with their original submission, and I won't bother reading all the details of these 3 submissions again, but the original one was for the whole deal, the 410 feet of central dock across the back of the lagoon, all 16 fingers, and the boat launch dock and the access ramp and all the piles for the project. And I've already spoken to the 2 revisions. So moving on, staff recommended that council resolve that the scope of work to be carried out as part of to be as per option 1, and that's to build out the whole deal as per the original tender submission. The second half of my report is to deal with awarding the tender. And on May the 11th, 2011, both of the contractors were asked to fill out the attached tables and return a signed copy to the town. The tables provide a breakdown of all the costs which are common to all 3 of the tender submissions, such as the installation of all the piles required for the whole project and the construction of the boat launch dock. The table also provides a cost breakdown of all the major components included in each of the tender submissions, the distribution of the component costs between the town and OSD, and it also helps to identify surcharges that may result if only the town's portion of the marine docks are constructed at this time. The total of each of the tender submissions and the breakdown of the cost distributed between the town and OSD are summarized in the 2 tables on this page, and I'll leave that for you guys to review. Just note that all the numbers are rounded to the nearest thousand. And some of the points to consider are that Burton Marine slightly increased their original tender submission price by, apparently due to the recent increase in the price of steel over the last 30 days. Grayback Construction managed to reduce their original tender submission price by approximately $9,000 by reducing the number of piles in the project from 16 to 13. This makes sense, and now both of the contractors are proposing to install the same number of piles. Burton Marine is the lowest bidder as it relates to their revised tender submission A, with a minor difference between the 2 bids of $10,000. With this option, the town's share of the cost is higher because there would be no fingers constructed in the northern half of the lagoon. Burton Marine is also the lowest bidder as it relates to the revised tender submission B, with a difference in the 2 bids of $41,000. This can be described as a surcharge by Grayback. If the town was to proceed with the revised tender submission B, this additional cost would need to be negotiated with OSD as part of the marina contract agreement. Grayback is still the lowest bidder as it relates to the original tender submission. With this option, the costs are split evenly between the town and OSD. If the town was to proceed with this option, all of the slips could be put into service, which would generate a return on investments. Following a review of the design-build tender submissions and interviews with both of the contractors, the RFP review committee felt that Grayback Construction Limited provided the best value for the town. That was, again, going back to my first report. And the options, I won't go through all the prices here, but your options are either to award the project to Grayback Construction Limited for one of the following prices listed here, or 2, to award the project to Burton Marine Pile Driving Incorporated for one of the following prices. Staff are still of the opinion that Grayback Construction Limited provide the best value to the town. This is based on the quality of their products, their construction methodologies, again, their qualifications, and their past experience. Staff recommend that council award the tender to Grayback Construction Limited based on their original tender submission with a revised price of $346,543, subject to an amendment to the town's financial plan. And part of the reasons that we went for the whole option is that these slips could be put into service right away, which would start generating a return on the investments right away as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shannon. Any questions? Councillor Cronmiller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple. The first one, is there any time frame on how long it would take to do?
Well, it depends, of course, on when they can start.
Yeah.
They have to get the work that's underway in the lagoon to completion before they can go in there and start doing the installation of the slips. But having said that, whoever gets the tender can go ahead and start ordering the fiber reinforced plastic decking, for example. That could take as many as 6 weeks for them to get that product in stock. They can also start fabricating the wood superstructure and all of the fingers and things like that off-site, so that whoever was to get the project could begin work right away. They both have different target dates, and they both seem to think that if they got going right away, they could finish for July 1st long weekend. But
My other question, since Grayback's working there already, I was just curious if having water in the lagoon or no water in the lagoon does it make any difference?
But it doesn't make any difference until they come to start doing the actual work. They'll want the water in the lagoon before they go in and start pounding piles. But as like I say, most of the work for all of the dock construction will be done on a prefab basis, right. And they'll be bringing it in sections, and they can do that for 5 or 6 weeks off site, and I'm confident they'll have that work in the lagoon done long before that.
Comment on options. I guess I'm looking at a previous one. This would be 2011-0502 report, tender marina dock coordinates. So that was the 2nd of May. And the option then had subject to funding being received from Osoyoos Shoreline Development. So does that mean that we're not going ahead with shoreline development funding? I'm looking at one here, just like I say, on May the 2nd. That was a part of the options that were being recommended in that report, subject to funding being received. So have we removed that from recommendation?
I guess I'll speak to the situation. So your shoreline development, as early as this morning, we talked to them about the project, and they had expressed to us a couple weeks ago that due to the economic climate, they would have preferred that we wait till fall or probably maybe till next spring before they provide their cost sharing amount into the project. Basically, they're looking at the number of units that they have to sell, and prior to creating more cash flow within the economic climate. So they have a significant amount of money invested in the project already. With going back in terms of their previous, they fronted the money relative to the environmental studies and all the work that was there. Their subsequent investment in the lagoon project, and it's just a matter of timing for them. One of the reasons, so in terms of the short answer to your question, at this time it appears that Osoyoos Shoreline Development is in. It's a matter of when, in fact, their contribution would be made. The reason that we're looking at a completed project is to have a completed project. We do have, like I said, from the other partner, a significant investment in the project already, and they, in terms of their goodwill, carried the front end of the project, and the feeling is that for an interim period of time, we can create this particular project, put it into use, generate the revenue, and then we will work subsequent to that on an agreement relative to the repayment schedule. That repayment schedule, it will be open to some discussion because and it'll be subject to the community charter that although their 50% will be there, there'll probably be some degree of financing charges and that, so that business will not be perceived as getting a special treatment from council.
And there was, I remember when we were going into this project, there was a lot of people that weren't all that excited about OSD being a part of this anyway. But so basically, then we're funding the whole project. That we're moving forward and funding this.
We would fund the installation of the slips and the docks, but again, they still have contributed their 100 or 250,000 into the lagoon. Right. That money is in our genes right now.
So if they were coming forward, they would be allowed in, or they would be a repayment program coming to us.
That's right.
And worst case scenario, they would lose all their rights.
Well, we would have, within the scope of developing this agreement, we would have a time frame attached to it. And if they did not meet that particular time frame, basically our agreement, our previous agreement relative to the lagoon funding and the project would cost them. They would lose their investment.
They would lose investment.
So there is significant emphasis, motivation, right, for OSD to come to the and complete their commitment. And based on the discussions this morning, that commitment is still there. It's just a matter of economic timing.
I'm just, in my mind, I'm sort of thinking that maybe I'd like to see this postponed until June 4th, but that's a council decision. I don't know what that time frame is. It just catch me a little bit off guard that we're sort of moving head solo. Councillor Ryan, you had
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, following up from what you just asked, is it correct that if we were to accept this tender, and I'm actually a bit a little astonished that the savings are not that significant to only build a portion of it, because I see that you do have to, they're doing a little more, but we were, I guess, hopeful that there might be some more significant savings, and we do want to complete it. We don't want it half done, that's for sure. Are we in a financial position at the moment, without any borrowing or anything like that, to assume, if necessary, in the worst case, the $347,000 for the completion of the original 32 slips?
Prior to developing the report, I checked with our finance director, and he said that there will be a need to alter our financial plan. That's done through bylaw, so he'll have to come back with some bylaw amendment. But we do have within our reserves the ability to carry this project through without any borrowing or anything like that. It tightens the noose on our contingency, but it seemed like a good business model to proceed. That looking at the numbers, as you said, the amount of savings are just not there.
No.
And if we have the contractors there, that's the rationale for proceeding under this model.
Okay, Councillor Chadsey, Councillor Rose.
I'm going to make a motion that, will I find it? I'm going to make a motion that Council award the original contract to Grayback Construction, and I will speak to that motion.
Seconder, Councillor Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's true that if the developer does not come up with his or their half, that the town is faced with a further $173,000, not a further $347,000. So I think I'd like to clarify that. The reason that I'm going to support the motion is because I truly believed that we needed a marina in this community. And the fact that we could enter into a partnership, that has its good points and its bad. There was somebody there that was prepared to split the cost 50-50, and so that's fine. But I personally don't want to be manipulated by a developer. Whether or not developer has money, then we do it. They don't have money, we don't do it. We need a marina. It's important that we have one. If it takes us a little longer to pay for the marina, so be it. It will be ours. It will be municipally owned. We will have all the slips available to us that we can lease out, and we will recoup that money. If the developer comes forth with their proposed share of $173,000, then we own less of the slips, but we haven't had to put that kind of money out. So either way, I'm going to support the motion because I truly believe that we need a marina, and we need to proceed. And the sooner we do that, the better. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, the essence of that motion, I'm definitely in favor of. I'm wondering if you could just clarify a couple of things for me. This is Part B of Phase 1, right? Part A being the dredging of the marina. Because we do have a bylaw, or at least a policy in place, where we don't move from one phase to another until the previous one is completed. That motion was introduced at our...
Yeah.
So we're still in Phase 1, correct?
That's correct. The limitation that you were talking about were the possibility of proceeding with 2 Fs on the outside within the lake. Okay, those are respectively phases 2 or 3, if you like. What we've been dealing with in Phase 1 is Part A or Part 1, which was the dredging, building the retaining wall, and that's where we're going right now. What we're talking about here in terms of a new tender is Part B to that same first phase.
And in addition to that, I'm wondering if you could clarify the status of Spartan Drive and the impact of that being closed for an extended period of time during our peak tourist season. Is that going to be open after Part A is done, or as you're aware, Spartan Drive is closed, and I'm wondering about the immediate future.
Yes, I believe it could be opened up after Part A, but certainly we'd confirm that in discussions with the contractor and find out exactly what the time frames would be of any road closure. And as we discussed this morning, if in fact there was the possibility of any delays, we'd certainly institute the necessary contingency planning to see that the public was inconvenienced as little as possible.
How would the east side of Spartan Drive be demised from the marina? Because right now you could drive down there and off of Spartan Drive into the marina if you.
Yeah, well, as soon as Part A is completed, it would be my understanding that Spartan Drive would be accessible. There could be some very temporary closures, but you're asking good questions, and we'll get back to council with the exact.
Thanks.
Cube. I'm going to be voting again. Obviously we have to finish. More questions I have to ask. Anytime you're doing a budget amendment, I can't see. I got tin league chills running down my back, so I won't be supporting it. If it came forward in 2 weeks with opportunity to have more input, I would probably be supporting it. But at this point, I'll not be supporting it. Councillor Ryan?
Well, apropos of that comment, I wonder if staff could advise us as to the duration of the tenders. I know that we have these two, but is there how long are they good? Were they good for time they closed and you negotiated them? Were they good for another 20 days, 30 days?
I believe they're good for 30 days, but correct me on that if it's correct? Yeah.
Yes. Well, yes. I mean, I think that's the critical thing as to whether the time, the clock was reset at the negotiation stage, or whether they're still operating on the original.
No, they already passed the original. That definitely was for 30 days. We've gone past that. So we're into a repeat performance at this point. Certainly, we can confirm whether the same 30 days would apply in this particular case. I would have reservation given that the second bidder already raised prices because of prices increasing globally. So we could expect, if we're going to extend it further, that so I'm very sorry, we could expect that if we were going to extend it further than that, that the first tenderer might come back as well to us.
Well, I would I think I'm prepared to support this. I understand the concerns about seeing how this is going to impact us, but we do need it. I can't see us can't see us doing only part of it, because there aren't any savings there, and I think it would just incur additional costs. So I would be prepared to do it, and I'm assuming that the motion talked about the revised price, the original, the full thing, the full arena, but with the revised cost from Grayback.
Councillor Cromwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week I attended, along with the councillors, Resort Municipality Collaborative, and I listened to a young lady speak there about amenities, and certainly I feel that this is an amenity in our community that is very important. And when we talked about it earlier today about the community needs and boat launching for the holiday weekend next week, and where we're at with construction, I really realize the importance of that amenity and those boat launches in that marina. And also to upgrade our park and begin some of those things. And as we heard earlier about a museum, and that whole waterfront is going to be an incredible place down the road. And I think it's really important. And council looked at this earlier. We said, well, if we go half, what would that look like? Well, now we know, and it's really not going to help us a whole lot. So I think it's imperative on us to proceed and get this job done, and have the full product that we have there in that lagoon. It'll give these people a chance to order things and provide us with, as the mayor sent us pictures one time of a potential of what it'll look like. I think it's going to be such a gem in our community that we can't afford to do it by half, and I don't think we can afford to wait. Because if we wait, it could be August, and that's too late for us. And so I would certainly support this motion, and I think it's time to get on with it.
Thank you, and I guess I'll just, being the only negative vote it looks like coming, I'll take my opportunity to close out discussion here. I just think it's premature, budget-wise and a few other questions-wise. I don't think we're jeopardizing anything by getting the proper facts out before we start making $350,000 decision. So I will be voting no, and I'm ready to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Moving on to the next item, tendering of the Gyro Park retaining wall. Mr. Zackel.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. So as you know, the South Retaining Wall replacement project at Gyro Park is part of our 5-year financial plans on the projects for 2011, and it was deemed a safety issue down at our park because the wall is actually falling down. We had brought this forward for council's consideration in the budgeting process with a $60,000 figure, and that was the best guesstimate at that time. We the tenders closed for this project on the 26th of April, and there were a total of 6 bids, with the lowest bidder being Yardworks Landscaping at $70,681.02. For this project to proceed, a number of things have to happen. The first thing is that council needs to award the contract, and secondly, we would require a budget adjustment to cover the shortfall in this project. We do have some savings from our 87th Street project from this year. That came in well under budget, but we do need to come up with an additional $10,000 to complete this project. So some of the implications for our community is this is an upgrade to the Gyro Park, and it's fixing a retaining wall, which is really a safety issue. Organizationally, there's no changes that are required, and from a budget perspective, a budget amendment would be required. The recommendation to increase the South Retaining Wall Gyro Park budget by $10,000, with funding coming from the 87th Street project, which does have funding remaining. This does not require a financial plan amendment. All this would require is a budget or the council's resolution changing or transferring budget numbers. So the recommendation from staff is to award Yardworks Landscaping the South Retaining Wall replacement of Gyro Park contract in the amount of $70,681.02, which includes the contingency allowance and HST, and secondly, to approve to transfer $10,000 from the 87th Street project, the South Retaining Wall Gyro Park project budget. The other option for council is to consider retendering it, but due to the timing of the tourist season fast approaching us, we may be far better to proceed.
Thank you. Just on that, on the item here, that public beach is just getting better and better, and that new sodded area down there is incredible. The walls, the walkways, it's really getting to be a real jewels. That's it's good to see. And this retaining wall will probably be the last piece. Councillor Rhodes making the recommended.
Yes, I'll also move the two recommendations, number 1 and 2.
You want them separately, Ms. Cardinal? Both together is fine, okay. That seconder will be Councillor Chadsey. Any discussion? Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to find out about the implications of the transfer from the 87th Street project. Where were those our funds, or yeah, those were our own town funds, eh?
That's correct. We had funds that we had budgeted to use from reserves, so the funding is available there, and it's built into our financial plan right now.
Okay, good. Thank you. So I would support this. I agree with you. It'll be the last piece of enhancement of that wonderful beach.
Really good. Just before we go to the question, Councillor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So last Thursday, when we received our agendas and all the supporting documents and everything, I always like to go directly to these types of tenders to see who's going to be successful and help with the evaluation on it. And how nice is this that the top two people in this group are local businesses run by local folks that employ local people who live in our community and that type of thing. And, you know, it was so close, you know, I mean, you didn't even need a calculator to really figure out the difference. So I just wanted to, you know, express my gratitude for this happening. It's always good, you know, to award it to a local business. Just a real great thing in my mind. And sometimes when you open these things up and you see, you know, $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 difference in the price and all over there, it's nice to see that they're close, and really, really good to see that the top two were local business.
Too bad they were so close.
That's right.
Councillor Chadsey?
Thank you. Mr. Zackel, I just want to know, are we going to require a promise that it will be completed before our real tourist season?
All we can do is the best that we can do. So basically, once I'm out of this meeting, I would be contacting True, which would be awarding this contract, and we would try to get going on that as soon as possible. If there was any indication that this was going to hamper us for the entire season, we'd basically get rid of that safety concern with the wall and leave it until after the season, so we wouldn't have been pushing this forward to award. But from what I understand, this will be done fairly quickly.
Okay, so there is no way that we can make the awarding of the tender subject to a completion date by, let's say...
Completion date's in the tender package.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
And that's why I
June 15th or 17th.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't have any concern with it, with the time frame.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Rhodes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a personal observation of that area with our rainfall and pending situation with the Similkameen River. Our waterfront is rapidly creeping up on that wall right now, so that may be a consideration. I don't think they can work down there if our lake is lapping against that wall. And late yesterday, it was pretty close. Yeah.
Maybe that should be with that completion date and Similkameen River and all that water things happening. And I think Councillor Chadsey was maybe referring to July 1st celebration amongst other summer usages. Maybe they should just have that dialogue with the contract, because there's certainly possibilities for not disasters nor catastrophes, but for second looks.
Absolutely.
Okay. No further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to the audited financial statements. Is that Mr. Doherty going to present?
I'll provide you with the highlights of the financial statements, and then I'll have Mr. Doherty from White Kennedy provide the audit opinion for the Town of Osoyoos and Sunbowl Arena's financial statements.
Great. Mr. Zacco, please.
Thank you very much. So I'm presenting the 2010 audited financial statements for the Town of Osoyoos and Sunbowl Arena for Council's approval. From the overview perspective, the town's auditors, White Kennedy, have completed the audit of the Town of Osoyoos and Sunbowl Arena and have prepared the 2010 financial statements for your review and approval. I have reviewed all of the accounts and can confirm the accuracy of these numbers. Some of the highlights from the 2010 financial statements include the reserves for future expenditures. In the general fund, we had $1,571,727. Sewer fund, we have $1,178,558. Water fund, we have $713,213. Development cost charges for DCC parks, we have $998,592. DCC roads, $872,865. DCC water, $636,130. DCC sewer, we have $413,393. And DCC storm drains, we have a negative balance of $14,724. And the reason for a negative DCC fund in the storm drain is we had a storm drain project at Park Place where we borrowed our funds from the Parks DCCs to cover the storm drain DCCs. So in our year-end statements, we're showing that negative impact so that we can keep track of those numbers. From a long-term debt perspective, having trouble speaking. From the long-term debts perspective, general fund is increased by $196,667, and that's our 87th Street project. Our water fund has decreased by $17,689, and our sewer fund is decreased by $99,239, and the larger reduction in the sewer fund was due to a retirement of debt from Bylaw 799 for sewer system improvements. Our tangible capital assets, our net book value for tangible capital assets has increased by $40,046,061, increased to the $40,046,061. That's from $37,564,257. And the net book value for tangible capital assets under capital leases has increased to $717,237. The cemetery care fund has increased by $3,239 to $66,326. And our cash surpluses in general sewer and water fund prior to our year-end expenditure or year-end adjustments. Our general fund was $1,181,763.52. The water fund, $451,790.42. Sewer fund, $234,173.72. The majority of these cash surpluses were due to the sale of the airport lands, the excess sales that we had. In addition, we also were under budget on most, I'd say 99% of our expenditures. And as well, we've got operating revenues that we had budgeted for capital projects. Those capital projects were actually deferred to 2011, so it shows as surplus. Gas tax funding, the funding from the Community Works Fund grant that goes towards projects related to cleaner water, cleaner air, and reduced greenhouse gas emissions. This balance is $491,666, and the Sunbowl Arena has a surplus of $3,962. So I'll turn the mic over to our town's auditor, Mike Doherty from White Kennedy, and he'll present the 2010 audit opinion for the financial statements. And then the recommendation for council is to approve the Town of Osoyoos and Sunbowl Arena audited financial statements as presented. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Zackel. Welcome, Mr. Doherty, ex-resident of Osoyoos.
Be back. Mr. Mayor, I have two reports. They're essentially both the same, so I can read them both in full or just the one and whichever.
We'll just take the one lead in, I think. And,
all right.
And maybe the two separate sets of figures. Am I reading this right?
Well, there's two
intros.
There's two financial statements.
Okay.
They both have the same audit report.
Okay.
To the Mayor and Council of the Corporation of the Town of Osoyoos. We have audited the consolidated statement of financial position of the Corporation of the Town of Osoyoos as at December 31st, 2010, and the consolidated statements of operations, the consolidated statement of change in net financial assets, the consolidated statement of cash flow for the year then ended, and a summary of significant accounting policies and other explanatory information. Management's responsibility for the financial statements. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements in accordance with Canadian generally accepted accounting principles, and for such internal control as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of the financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. The auditor's responsibility. Our responsibility is to express an opinion on these financial statements based on our audit. We conducted our audit in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards. Those standards require that we comply with ethical requirements and plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free from material misstatement. An audit involves performing procedures to obtain audit evidence about the amounts and disclosures in the financial statements. Procedures selected depend on the auditor's judgment, including the assessment of the risk of material misstatement of the financial statements, whether due to fraud and error or errors. In making those risk assessments, the auditor considers internal control relevant to the entity's preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but are not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the entity's internal control. An audit also includes evaluating the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of accounting estimates made by management, as well as evaluating the overall presentation of the financial statements. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our audit opinion. In our opinion, the financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the Corporation of the Town of Osoyoos as at December 31st, 2010, and the results of its operations and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian generally accepted accounting principles. Signed, White Kennedy, Chartered Accountants, Penticton, British Columbia, May 16th, 2011.
Okay. That's it?
That's the report. I do have one other thing, if you wouldn't mind. Each year, on each audit we do, we issue a management letter, which provides our recommendations for changes to your internal controls to increase their value. And I just wanted to point out that in my 30 years as a chartered accountant, the number of times I've had no recommendations because your system is operating so effectively is certainly less than 5 times. So congratulations to Mr. Zacco and Mr. Romanco and all the staff, and to council.
Great. Thank you very much. Is there any questions? Questions of Mr. Doherty? Councilor Ryan.
I've got a whole bunch of questions.
Good.
I don't know who they're to be directed to, but I guess for starters, maybe I'll ask Mr. Doherty to deal with them. In the consolidated statement of operations, page 3 of your audited report, if you look at the budget, the figures versus actual and the previous year for grants, provincial, and administration and miscellaneous recoveries are, whoa, they are just so different from each other. How would you just talk about the great difference there between the actual and the budget, especially as it relates to the previous year's actual?
Well, this might be better for Mr. Zacco to speak to, because I have nothing to do with your budgeting. I'm just showing the,
Okay, well, I wasn't sure who to direct it to, but
no, that's fine.
I thought that you were up there, so maybe you'd have first crack at it.
I'd love to be able to answer, but I don't have an answer.
Okay.
The large budget figure that's showing in there is relating to the sewer fund, and that's basically showing a lot of the grants that we got from the Northwest Sector Sewer Project. That's showing in the actual budget there. That's why you see the skew in the budget number compared to last year's.
But the actual for 2010 is
significantly
are you saying
less.
we haven't drawn down on those yet?
We haven't spent the money.
Okay, all right.
We
Okay, so it's
definitely-
still there. We got the grant, but.
Yep.
Okay, we just haven't used it, okay.
Yep.
And the same is, that's true of both of those figures, the 4.6 and, the 6.6 and the 6.4 million?
Looking at page 3 again?
Yeah, I'm just looking at administration and miscellaneous recoveries.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, okay. And while you're there, Mr. Zackel, the transfer from DCCs, the reason that didn't happen is because they didn't materialize, eh?
Exactly. Well, the biggest thing is the expenditures didn't take place, so the transfers, they were budgeted for, but we didn't need to make them because we haven't spent the money yet.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, I have a couple more if you'll bear with me, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, yes.
Because this is the first time I've seen this. I was reminded of your comment on the previous item. On page 8, which is the schedule of property and other taxes, the collections for other governments and the requisitions generally are the same except for the regional district. So do we receive a requisition from them and then we just have to take it out of our tax revenues that we've collected? There's no specific collection for them? Is that what I'm given to understand? Follow me? The collections for other governments are identical with the requisitions, with the exception of the regional district, which we're not collecting on behalf of. So I'm just asking, is when we get their requisition, we just have to pay it out of our available tax funds? Is that the idea?
Well, what's showing is the municipal requisition, so general municipal purposes, also includes the RDOS. So for financial statement purposes, it's got it grouped up with our general municipal taxes were 2.3 million. So the balance of the RDOS is shown under general municipal purposes under taxation, and that's the way it's been presented for in perpetuity so far.
Okay, so it's in that first line, and that 2.9 million contains the 6.693.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, all right.
So you see the net taxation is actually the municipal taxation that we have for operating
Less
our
that
municipality.
one. Yeah, okay, all right. I feel like one of the citizens here going through this line by line. On our, it's page 16, and the notes to the financial statements about long-term debt. Am I correct that the debt that we have is fixed for the duration and there's no early repayment possible?
There are options at the 10-year thresholds where MFA may give the option to pay it out, or it gets refinanced at the newer and lower rates. But definitely that's the only time that you have the option to pay that out.
And it's at their discretion that they offer it? Is that the idea?
No, it's basically available.
At the 10 years. So it's it's like a 20-year term that's renewable at the 10-year
That's correct.
mark. Okay, good. Have we ever prepaid or?
I think there's one occurrence quite a few years ago that we actually paid it out. We had quite an amount in reserves, and so the recommendation was just to pay it out early because it didn't relate to a specified area project.
Good. Okay, good.
Aren't we getting old? Remember back in the 80s?
What was it like in the 80s? Okay, I have one more with a little red mark here. What was it? Oh, I think that's as far as I got. So, okay, thanks very much. Take that.
Okay, any further questions, Mr. Doherty? Thank you very much for your report. Looking for a resolution from council.
Resolve to accept the as presented?
Yes, to approve,
And
yep.
to sign?
For the Town of Osoyoos and the Sun Bowl Arena audited financials.
Yes.
Seconder, Councillor Cronmiller.
That's to approve, not to accept, but to approve.
To approve. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I would so move.
Okay, and Councillor Cronmiller, discussion, all in favor, opposed, that is carried. Next item of business, under number 5, from the Regional District, Okanagan, Smilkameen, looking for another extension on the hauled liquid waste going to the Osoyoos landfill. This comes up on a yearly basis. So, Mr. Zackel, please explain to us why we're going to do this again for about the 4th year.
Best question asked is the area director, and I think anybody that's been attending the board meetings would know where they're sitting in the troubles that they've been having. But getting into this background, Town of Osoyoos operates a hauled liquid waste facility at the Osoyoos Sanitary Landfill. This facility has been receiving hauled liquid waste from properties not connected to the town's sanitary sewer system. In 2002, a separate cell was created to handle the septage and grey water from the Willow Beach site due to their septage system failing. In 2008, Willow Beach had changed their operators who were hauling the materials from to the Osoyoos hauled liquid waste site and were depositing the materials into the wrong cell, which was rectified once it became apparent. This created an unacceptable odor problem, which took months for the cells to come back to normal. In September 2008, Council gave the Town of Oliver and RDUS 1-year notice that they were no longer going to be accepting hauled liquid waste from areas outside the municipality. This was extended in August of 2009 and then further extended to March 30th of 2010. In March of 2010, this was further extended to June 30th, 2011. The Regional District has continued to work on a feasible option for relocating the hauled liquid waste to a different location other than the Osoyoos facility. To date, each option has been very cost-intrusive and would increase carbon emissions due to the hauled liquid waste needing to be transported to the Penticton facility. The RDOS has requested an extension to the June 30th, 2011 deadline, asking for an extension to the spring of 2012. The Desert Center is in very close proximity to this facility. For the last 3 years, the operators of the hauled liquid waste, or the operators who haul the liquid waste, have been working with the Town of Osoyoos to ensure that no hauled liquid waste was coming in during the Desert Center's annual fundraising event to limit any excessive odors coming from the hauled liquid waste facility. With the construction of the Northwest Sector sewer line being constructed to the north as far as Willow Beach, with a completion date of March 31st, 2012, the volume of hauled liquid waste being delivered to the Osoyoos Sanitary Landfill should be significantly reduced, not to mention the large amount of grey water that's being hauled in from Willow Beach. The hauled liquid waste facility is a revenue generator, and in 2010, the town received $72,844 in revenue. For implications for the community, it allows for a close location for property owners to dispose of their hauled liquid waste that do not have the luxury of being connected to the town sewer system. Organizationally, there's no changes. And from a budget perspective, if the hauled liquid waste facility no longer accepts hauled liquid waste from outside the municipality, it is estimated that revenues will be reduced by approximately $60,000. This loss in revenue will need to be made up in other fee increases or as a tax increase. So options for council is for council to grant the request to extend, or for council to grant the request extension to receive hauled liquid waste to the spring of 2012, or for council to resolve that the town will allow hauled liquid waste from outside town boundaries at the Osoyoos Sanitary Landfill until a suitable location is established for the service to be relocated, or 3, to deny the request for extension from the RDOS.
Thank you. Councillor Ryan.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that council grant the request extension to receive hauled liquid waste to March 31st, 2012.
Thank you. Seconder? I'll second that. Councillor Ryan?
Yes, I certainly know that they are working to find an alternative, and I know that the greenhouse gas emissions come into that equation. But I think it is important that we continue to consider these on a regular basis. I don't have a problem with this coming forward, and I think it, as when we had their solid waste expert down here, a number of council members indicated how important that was and some of the other things, and how we wish that they would accelerate some of their priorities there. So I think this is simply manifestation of that council intent, that we're happy to do it as within some of the conditions that we've laid down about when it happens. But I think it's important that they continue to work very diligently to find an alternative.
Thank you. The Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask, in your notes, your preamble in this, you said there was a fair amount of consideration given to the desert center to avoid, a dumping at certain time periods. That's a statement, but was it successful? Was there any complaints or any comments that were made about that?
It was very successful as far as a staff perspective is concerned. We checked with the Desert Center. Our local politicians were very happy with how it took place. With the operator that was at the landfill, we basically were able to confirm that it wasn't being hauled in. There was one operator that was sort of bucking the trend at first, but they basically towed the line as well, because they know the alternative. They know that if this became an issue again, council, they wouldn't even blink an eye. This thing would be shut down completely. So they knew that this is something that they needed to work with us on.
I'm just going to jump in for a minute there. There's two issues. That was a special event. That was for romancing the desert. That's not the daily situation that goes on a daily basis in a resort municipality, in a tourist focused service in a resort municipality. This is a daily issue, and yes, they did controlled dumping for romancing the desert. The other 3 months or 4 months of the year, this is a daily issue up there to the folks that are running in a resort municipality, looking after this tourist facility. So that's why I strongly support the March 31st of 2012, and just to set the record straight here, the town of Osoyoos also had some obligations that were never fulfilled. As I recall, there was screening, there was pyramid cedars, there was a lot of things that were going to happen that we've never fulfilled either. So in my mind, there's some major issues. Councillor Cronmiller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I find it really unfortunate that back in the day, whenever this was developed, either one, that they were developed so close together. I don't know. It says here 2002 for Willow Beach, but it must have even been there before that. So maybe it was there when the Desert Center was started as well.
The sanitary landfill, hauled liquid waste, was there before the Desert Center built.
Oh. And that's really unfortunate that
it is.
It wasn't taken into account at that time, and you were stuck with it. I voted against this thing since the smell started to get bad, and it does. It really isn't good for our tourist place at all. But on the other hand, it's we received some money for it, and where else do they do it? We don't have another facility, and the regional district can't seem to find one either, and Oliver either. So I certainly support the idea that we check this on a regular basis and keep current on it. And yeah, it'd be nice to get rid of it, but on the other hand, $8,000 is kind of nice too. So at any rate, I'm going to support the motion.
Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I sat on that committee with the solid waste. I have no memory of this ever being brought up at the RDOS. Is there an active program to look for alternatives?
Yes, because I sit on regional district, and they were all set. We've looked at many. One would be to take it into the Penticton sanitary sewage treatment plant on the Okanagan River, who put in spent $1 million to be able to take a septic product, which is basically concentrated as opposed to normal everyday sewage. So this is a concentrated product, and we can't put it in ours, in Osoyoos here, because it would extremely upset the balance. So Penticton spent $1 million upgrading theirs so they could take the local Penticton septic tank effluent into their sewage treatment plant. So when they were approached by the regional district to take the regional districts, they said certainly, but the cost was exorbitant. They wanted, it was going to change your septic tank pump out to $800 or something just to be able to put it through, because the concentrated septic effluent has to be diluted so it can go into the system. It's quite a process. So that one was very expensive. Then they were going to put a tanker truck at the landfill in Oliver, and the local people were going to go to Oliver and pump from the septic tank receiving truck into the tanker truck, and then when the tanker truck got full, it was going to go to Penticton. And when they looked at the volume that they were going to try to deal with, two trucks and it would be a full load, and the cost and all the other things, that one failed. So now we're back to the Osoyoos solution. I'm supporting what we're doing, but I certainly think that it has to be battled and fought through every year. And I guess I have a question on the report. Did we talk to the Desert Center this year?
No, we haven't as of this point.
I wish we would have had a comment from them as a part of the report. One thing is they're not doing Romancing the Desert this year. So this will be the first year that they're not doing that as a fundraiser. So we won't have that issue. But again, anything we can do to make this a better situation is to everyone's gain in the town of Osoyoos. Mr. Romanko.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Later on in the agenda, we're going to be dealing with regionally significant projects for gas tax funding. And I'm wondering if council would consider that the regional district make it one of their priorities to upgrade our sewer system with the regional gas tax funding to accommodate this particular liquid waste. I'm not quite sure if, my understanding is we can do it. We just need the major investment, and for them to, even for the year, from what I've heard from the regional district, they'll be back again next year, and this type of product cannot be placed in a hole in the ground. It just shouldn't happen in today's society. It has to go into an existing facility. It's obvious the transportation costs are overwhelming in terms of this end of the regional district. So they have to set up a system someplace, whether it be here or Oliver. I don't know which system would be more accommodating, but if there is a potential, maybe we should make that suggestion within the scope of the response letter, that they make that consideration.
Great comment, and I think it's something that we should be looking at. It's been on, as I said, this issue's been nagging at council longer than Councillor Cronmiller and I have been sitting here. So I think Councillor Chadsey, Councillor Ryan. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad that Mr. Romanko brought that up. It's too bad that they will be back again, but once the Northwest Sewer is finished, which is March of 2012, 6 months for everybody to connect, and then they will see quite a vast reduction in the liquid waste. And I think that the next council, who may be faced with having to make that kind of decision, like maybe there is a different way that we can continue receiving it. And there are other liquid waste facilities around, and how do you mitigate the smell, et cetera, et cetera. So, maybe we should kind of put the word out that they should, that's what I was going to say, that they should maybe look at us. But in the interim, while we continue to give them extensions, are we keeping the costs current? Okay. Okay. Because I would hate to just keep saying yes, 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 and all of a sudden the rates are 3 years old. So that's important to me. Thank you.
But not really current if you looked at what the Penticton rates were to put them through their sewage plant system. That was a scary big number. But they were so what happened is Penticton upgraded theirs, but because the number is so big, no one's using it. And they're saying, well, that's what the upgrade cost, and so we have to get that much a tone to pay for it. So it's quite a little issue. Councillor Wright.
Yeah, I was just wondering, Mr. Mayor, in light of Mr. Remenko's comments, whether it would be appropriate to include that as part of our resolution, that we extend it to that period of March 31st, 2012, but at the same time ask them to make a priority among the gas tax funding projects to an upgrade of of our Osoyoos landfill to handle liquid septic waste. I would be happy to do that. I think you were my seconder, so
okay.
Are you okay with that?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay. So let the minutes read that we've added that condition or that
and furthermore
recommendation. Yeah, that we ask that they prioritize our upgrade as one of the gas tax recipients.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, opposed, carried. Okay, lucky us, another sewer issue. Into the a report on dealing with an individual and the Northwest Sewer Project. These folks have written a letter which they are requesting or suggesting a form of action. Mr. Remenko, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. Within the attachment of your report, you'll find a letter from Ewald Mavis and David Hartman asking that the town provide for alternative costing arrangements in the Northwest Sewer area. The Hartmans are asking that a costing system be developed resulting in equal costs of providing sewer for all recipients of sewer service, whether the property is serviced through gravity or through a pump into the forced main system. The alternative suggestion is a two-fee system that recognizes the higher operating cost of property owners that have to pump into the forced main. The traditional delivery of sewer system services is based on the principle that the recipient of the sewer service is required to pay all costs of getting the effluent to the property line. The parcel tax system developed for paying in the Northwest Sewer line was based on this principle. In the Northwest Sewer project, it is true that the principle will result in higher startup and ongoing operating costs for people that have to pump their sewer into the forced main. It's also true that some people will have to have higher costs of connecting to the line because their residence is further away from the sewer line. In terms of implications, it's speculated that a majority of the users in the Northwest Sewer project won't be supportive of the recommendation of the Hartmans. The principle of user pay has stood the test of time in the delivery of municipal sewer servicing. From an organizational perspective, although any system can be developed if the will and the suitable rationale is present, the implementation of the Hartman suggestions would be administratively a nightmare to find consensus ground for implementation. There would be a need for extensive consultation and negotiation with all infected parties. This would consume staff time and add to the costs of the project. In terms of budget, additional staff time would have to be budgeted to implement the suggested changes. At this time, we're presenting two options, and that option is to council to pass a resolution that informs the Hartmans that council is not in favor of their suggestion to provide a two-price system or equalize the costs of capital servicing for all participants on a Northwest Sewer project. The second suggestion is that council directs staff to provide an overall impact assessment of this request, and staff is recommending option number 1 at this time.
Thank you, Mr. So, Council, please. Councillor Cronmiller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move option 1.
Seconder. Councillor Rhodes. Discussion, please. Councillor Ron Miller has that opportunity first, speaking to it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just think that looking at it, as described here, one individual compared to a whole group, it would be better served to have the same rules for everybody, and the impact of changing the rules is very great, and it's a lot of administrative work for our staff, and is the end result worth the means? I don't think so. I speak in favor of the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Ryan?
Yeah, I think the example that they cited was different in the sense that it was a city-owned property that they were servicing, and this is outside of our boundaries. So that's another reason. I think Mr. Romenko's reasoning was sound, but I think that's an added reason for us not to consider it.
I understand it. I'm just seem to be at odds with council today. I can understand where the Hartmans are coming from, having to go into a pump up. You've got the pump and the electricity and all that, and they're going into this sort of equal, but they're not equal, and there's a few because of geography that aren't in that. And I find that's an unfairness. I don't think that the solution. I'm going to support the resolution, but I do understand where they're coming from, and if I read it right, they were talking about still having a septic tank and only pumping fluids up the hill, rather than all the sewage going up. And if that's the case, they basically still have a septic tank that still has to be serviced, that still has to before they put the clarified product in the outlet into the sewer system. So I wasn't sure on that. I know that's one way of doing systems under a forced main. People are forced to keep their septic tanks, and so I do empathize with them. But anyway, I just wanted to make that comment that there is a inherent unfairness to some customers. I don't know how you deal with it. I don't think you do the whole two pricing system or something like that. So it's unfortunate. Council, anything further? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Mr. Romenko again on the Resort Municipality Capital Plan, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. The province of BC created the Resort Municipality Initiative Grant Program as a mechanism to provide funds to assist 14 designated resort municipalities to develop projects that will increase community tourism. In order to access this funding, you must have a current resort municipality development strategy, which is developed through a stakeholder consultation process. Council directed staff to develop and implement a consultation process that would result in a new strategic plan for resort municipality spending. There was an existing plan in place, but it identified only 6 projects. The attached report highlights the process that has been followed and the results of the consultation workshops and meetings, and a resort municipality capital projects list that has been reviewed earlier by Council. The town currently has an accumulated surplus of $477,820 in resort municipality funding reserves, and will receive $267,116 in 2011. The province requires that a plan be submitted to access the new funds based on an annual allocation. So when we receive funding in the future, we will have to spend that money in the actual year that is received. As presented to Council earlier, the new program rules direct municipalities, and with not only this as an annual change, but with some others. Approval by the Council doesn't guarantee that the province is going to approve it. They must have some criteria that they use to say, well, this project will increase tourism or it won't increase tourism. But again, based on the discussions we had with them last week, and a tour anyway that we did, we actually toured the provincial people all our projects that we in fact have completed or are funding now, and gave them an idea of the projects that we're going to be implementing in next year's. And quite frankly, they were quite excited about the nature of the projects that we are taking on. Certainly, this community benefits from the special funding that we get to provide these amenities, but with it comes responsibilities, and one of those responsibilities is an annual reporting system that tries to capture performance measures as to just how much we in fact are improving tourism as part of the whole effort to improve tourism in BC. If this program is delivered in its entirety, and right now we're moving in a budgeting process that it's a 5-year program that the allocation is only on an annual basis. So should the province become in trouble and want to find a program to cut, this program may be in jeopardy. But at the same time, if we follow through with our funding, and at the same time maybe make some moves to try and increase our funding based on our room counts here in town, our funding will be quite significant. Just at its current level, we will receive $1.3 million over 5 years to support tourism facility development in this community. So, Council, what I am looking for today is a resolution to approve the resort municipality strategy and the resort municipality expenditure plan as presented by the administration here, and then to forward it on to the province. Alternatively, if Council does not approve the plan, that they present additional comments to be included in the plan, and also if Council does not approve the plan, to send the plan back to administration for additional information that's been identified by Council.
Great. Council. Councilor Rhodes.
I'll move option number 1.
Thank you. And that is Council resolves to approve the Resort Municipality Strategy and Resort Municipality Initiative Expenditure Plan 2011-2015. It's presented by the administration. 11, and further resolved this plan be forwarded to government for approval. Councilor Ryan. Discussion. Well, other than when you look at the numbers that are out there, how lucky are we? Every time this comes up, I have to pinch myself that we're a part of this initiative. There's only 13 approved municipalities in this. One is on the waiting list, but I understand it hasn't received approval yet. So there's basically 13 small communities in this province that are having their 2% hotel room tax matched by the provincial government, and that's resulting in that $400 and some odd thousand, and then $267,000 coming this year. And I guess my message to the taxpayers out there is a lot of times the taxpayers are seeing initiatives developed towards tourism products, and they're going, well, you're spending all our taxes on a tourism product. In effect, we're not doing that. We have to get approval from the provincial government to spend this money, and they are telling us that this money is going to be spent on either attracting tourists or enhancing the tourist experience in Osoyoos. So when we spend this $600,000 this year, it will be on tourism-oriented projects. So says the government. So I'm just so excited about this money coming into our coffers and the opportunity to improve the town of Osoyoos for everybody. So that's my little pitch. Councillor Chadsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I talked about this at the last council meeting about the boat trailer parking and how it was part of the resort municipality. And this money does come to us from the province for the purpose of tourism. But I think it's important to remind the residents, of which I am one, that pretty much everything that we put this money into benefits the residents. The trail system, the affordable housing, the signage, the beach cleaner, the public washrooms, everything we do is to the benefit of the residents also. And I'm really excited that we can finally take this cash that we have of $477,000 that we haven't spent yet. I'm hoping that the province, the resort municipality initiative people will approve this plan so that we can get on with it. I find it very exciting. So good job to staff. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Chazzy. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it's an excellent report, and I want to refer, in addition to what's been said already, the meeting that we had, and we were fortunate to be the host community for our fellow resort community members. There was a speaker there, a professor from the University of Vancouver Island, who talked about amenities in communities and how vital these were to attracting visitors. And she took it a step further, and she reminded us that the reason why you bring visitors in is because they're potential residents. And who of us doesn't know a lot of people around who've come to this community and who say, oh, I used to come here all the time when I was a child. I came here, or we came here for many, many summers, and now I'm moving here to live. And so they not only are for visitors, they're not only to attract visitors, but they're to attract future residents. And our present residents enjoy them as well. So it's a win-win situation.
Mr. Romanko, did you have a comment
Yeah,
there?
I just thought it appropriate maybe to identify a couple of the major projects that we have identified for expenditure this year in the plan, and Councillor Chadzi referred to some of the more minor ones, but we do have identified $300,000 for waterfront facility enhancement, which we will be looking at replacing the washroom in Gyro Beach, and then also into the marina facility, $290,000, which will include a new washroom facility and then general improvements to the marina project. So those were two projects that the province was really ecstatic about because they're very visible, they're very, very, very tourist orientated.
That just brings up, we sure have spent a lot of time on sewer and sewage and washrooms in this meeting.
Tell you something, Mr.
Very, very important.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Again, Mr. Romanko, into gas tax funding.
In the attached report here, you'll find a significant amount of information on the UBCM gas tax funding program, which provides various projects various programs that allows local government to access this gas tax funding money. One of the projects that is before us right now is the regionally significant project DRAW, and this fund is administered through the regional district, and the regional district has been allocated $4.272 million to distribute to regionally significant projects that must be started prior to 2014. We've benefited from this project, from this type of money prior, in a sense of the windows at the Sonora Center and the community bus, replacement of the community bus, and also the canal trail. These are three projects that have previously benefited from funding of this nature. So the task before us is to find projects to bring to them that may have potential for funding. And I know that this go around there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on the nature of the regional impact of the projects that are presented, and to the degree that UBCM and the province are actually bringing out delegates to sit down and work with the regional district to ensure that their projects have regional significance. So the administration has identified 4 projects that we're bringing forth to council, looking for your approval. That these would be the projects that we would bring forward to the regional districts as the priority for funding in this next round of funding. And what we're looking for is if these projects are approved by council, are there other projects that the council would see as should be added to this list, understanding that these projects have to be able to show regional impact, and also look at reduction of carbon footprint. And just to quickly review what we have in front of here in terms of projects we've identified, number one is the energy efficiency upgrades at the proposed new fire hall. We're proposing making an application in the order of $500,000. The second one is the development of the recreation master plan at $40,000, and this a big part of the this particular program has been trails and active living. So programming this particular area would be identified. The third project is phase 2 of System 8 of the area domestic water twinning system at $2,042,040, and a third would be a stormwater treatment upgrade. Given the importance of the lake to the region, we feel that this project may be able to get a high priority as well. So these are regional projects that we've identified, and we're looking to see if council will support this list in a go-forward position. We will be meeting actually next Tuesday as the administration to gather all these projects together, meeting with the delegates from the province, and then putting forth a list to the regional district board for approval after that.
Thank you, Mr. Manko. I'm going to throw one out at the top because I see there's an opportunity. Maybe one of the options, put another one on the table. I think you've got some great projects there. There's one I want to address, and I don't know whether it's through this one or through the trails or through different funding or through resort municipal funding, but when they were putting in the passing lanes out on the highway north of town out there, and I know myself for sure, and I think some other councillors raised quite a ruckus about our loss of the hike and bike trail and the ability to have that hike and bike trail there. They actually heard us and rechanged that, and I think when they got into the salamander issue out there, they actually cut a deal with Ducks Unlimited, traded land, went through quite a bit of work to trade land, traded land, gained land, and have that trail along there for the whole length of the highway. And now when I look at it, all we have to do is get over to the bridge on Road 18, and we'd be able to have a bike trail to the Vincor Winery north of Oliver. And what an addition for our tourists and our visitors and our residents to be able to ride a bike. And, you know, because we're pretty good now right to the landfill. So there's a few spark gaps out there around the top of Graveyard Hill, but down the back, and there's a piece of railway there. And I think it's nearly doable. And maybe if we're looking at a regional connection, maybe with Director Pendergraph, Director Patton, and then we could, because, you know, a lot of that money is going into the Rails for Trails and the Trans-Canada Trail when I'm sitting there at that regional board, and we don't really become a part of that. That was the old Kettle Valley Railway line and over going out towards Falder and that, and it would really be nice if we could, and now I think we have an obligation when the Highways Department put that leg in for us and did all that extra work and cost, it sure would be nice to put that into practice. Having said that, we'll go back to your report and have some council input on it. Councillor Chadsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to suggest that we take the recreation master plan out. And that's something I'd like to discuss. And my reasons for doing it are, I hate to do it in public, but There's $4.2 million on the table, and we have some really significant regional projects here. The Recreation Master Plan is $40,000, and although it is regional, I think that between the town and the Area A, I don't think we'll have that much trouble coming up with $40,000. I would hate for us to get $40,000 out of $4.2 million, and yeah, and so for that reason, I'm kind of leery about putting it out there.
Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would agree with Councillor Chadsey, and I would also say that I had a revelation not too long ago, and I'm going to tell you about it. The revelation was that we cannot tolerate any longer having water that people cannot drink within our area of responsibility, and we have already decided we're going to put in something for the beginning of a twinning system in Area A, or System A, 8. But I think we have to give that the highest priority. And I think these are good. I would agree that we take that one out. But I would reorder them. And I would say that number 3, the Phase 2 of System 8, has got to be our highest priority. And I think that the stormwater treatment has got to be our next highest priority. You know, we simply, I mean, it just, I've almost canceled my subscription to the local paper because I'm tired of seeing these boil water advisories in there, you know. I mean, I think it's just, it's just a challenge to us to really, you know, set the priorities correct. And so that would be my suggestion, that we make that number 1 and number 2. And, I mean, I don't think you have to have a lot of them. I think you say, these are the most important things that we want to do, and we want your money to help us do it.
You. Strongly stated. Councillor Cronmiller.
I did, one I wanted to mention, though, was the one Mr. Romanko mentioned earlier, and I think it's worthy of being included in here somewhere, is that septic system that's out by our waste management and liquid waste facility. Certainly would be a regional thing, and I think it's certainly worthy of being in here. The Recreation Master Plan, I can see that one going too, and it's a plan. These other things are actual things that go on. So I think they're really important, and I agree the water is at the top. I'll see the end of that problem. And the fire hall is something that's worthwhile too. It's a regional facility as well, so certainly would fit under this. But I think that liquid waste could be added in here, and that would be a good thing to do. Otherwise, yes, I'm in favor of this.
Okay. Further input? So what were we have the list? Have the amended list?
Well, I have the amended list. Again, I don't know the trail development, what kind of money has to be thrown at it to make it a reality. Again, some of these there may be, I don't know what the RDOS projects are. You know, they may have identified trail development, and if they don't, then certainly as part of the discussion, I can bring forth the idea that, you know, again, this will be part of our list, and I think there's probably going to be some trade-offs relative to it. We put in the domestic water system, but that's half of the grant money that's available, and you know, and then again, it could, maybe they give you $1 million, and if you give you $1 million, you do $1 million dollars worth of work.
Exactly.
So that type of posturing could be presented as well in terms of numbers. So I don't know if we want to put a dollar figure on the trail development that, you know.
Well, I think I'm happy that you have it in your back pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the meeting, because there's going to be, you know, there's going to be a lot of ideas on the table, and if we can, you know, if we have it on there and we get it recorded on a piece of paper, then if we don't get it this one, we'll get it on the next one, or, you know, get it on a different program, and that, but I think we should have that out there somewhere.
Yep.
To let's get our trails all linked up, and I mean, to be able to ride from Osoyoos to Vincor is just an incredible. So I guess we're looking for a resolution to approve the following projects to go forward to for the RDOS for consideration. So Mr. Romanko will take those forward.
Yes, good. I did want to ask, there is a list of projects selected in the material we were given, and I'm not quite sure if these are some that are on the table or whether they're previous ones, but they've got, they're identified by municipality and project and the total and the points and so on.
Well,
and
that was the last list.
Is that
the last go round of
Okay.
funding,
Okay.
and again, I don't know how they work this. It looks like they try and give each community some amount of funding, to within their projects. So.
Well, they did give, they gave liquid waste a 14 rating, and it gave them something toward that, but so they had it in there before, but anyway.
Yeah.
Well, there must be residual money in there because they didn't do anything.
Well, their list that was to do their liquid waste management plan, I think.
Okay.
And as you can see, the regional district funded a number of studies.
Don't have there's not much residual in liquid waste management. Okay. So all in favor of this going forward? Opposed? Great. Thank you. And good luck and bargain hard.
It'll be your vote.
All right. Cash requirements, bill paying time.
Nope, you missed one.
Oh, did I miss one? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Oh, missed two.
Two additionals.
Contract award for the Northwest Sector Sewer Project, Phase 3. Have a report from Mr. Romanko, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. Phase 3 of the Northwest Sewer line has been tendered, and 5 bids were received. Attached is True Consulting's recommendation to award the bid to the second lowest bidder, H&M Excavating from Penticton. The 5 bidders are listed below. Include Sunline Utilities from Penticton at $694,344. H&M Excavating from Penticton at $698,959.52. V-Line Construction from Oliver, $844,032. Copcan Contracting, Nanaimo, $949,200. And LNB Construction from Merritt at $1,042,819.12. The contract award recommendation is unusual because it recommends awarding the second lowest bidder instead of the lowest bidder. There is a $4,615.52 difference in the 2 bids. True Consulting's attached assessment outlines that, in their opinion, there may be better value to award to the second lowest bidder because of potential performance issues with Sunland Utilities. Administration has secured a legal opinion to assist us in determining the degree of jeopardy should Council decide to award the Phase 3 contract to the second lowest bidder. This legal opinion was shared with Council at the May 16th closed Council meeting and identifies that the town has the ability to award the contract to the second bidder. The town has completed due diligence in their contracting process by identifying that they don't have to award to the lowest bidder. No impacts on the community other than True is more comfortable with H&M's ability to complete the project. No organizational impacts at this time. Budget differences of award to H&M may be made up through other areas. And in terms of options presented to council right now, to award the Phase 3 contract to the lowest bidder, Sunland, in the amount of $694,344. Award the Phase 3 contract to the second lowest bidder, H&M Excavating, in the amount of $698,959.52. Administration recommends option 2 to award to H&M Excavating. Administration has explored Sunland's performance issues with True Consulting and is of the opinion that Sunland Utilities' performance issues experienced on earlier phases warrant sufficient concerns that the contract should be awarded to H&M Excavating.
Thank you. Council, please. Councillor Ryan.
I would move that we award Phase 3 Northwest Sewer contract to the second lowest bidder, H&M Excavating, in the amount of $698,959.52.
Councillor Rhodes as seconder. Any discussion on this, please? I guess this is moving out of the box a little bit. We certainly haven't done this very often, but there was some strong recommendations there, so we're at. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And under Business 10, bit of an interesting one here. Mr. Romanko, you want to do the lead on that?
Certainly. The town started construction of the marina in February with a targeted completion date that would have the new facility completed prior to our busy season. The delays caused by environmental issues of finding a painted turtle, responding to osprey nesting, and water quality for fish fry has resulted in a 7-week delay of project completion. Grayback Construction has committed to a June 17th completion of the marina. These construction delays have resulted in marina construction conflicting with our busy boating season. There is a need to develop a contingency plan that will develop a positive visitor experience despite the impacts of construction. The greatest concern is relating to the action of unloading boats in a single launch area and the storage of day-use units. There is a need to ensure a positive visitor experience for providing lake users with on-site information and to control the boat launching process. The administration is requesting council provide additional funds to Bylaw services to provide on-site information and control in the marina area. It's proposed that these service supports will be provided Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of the long weekend in May, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of the long weekend in July. The hours of service would be from 9 a.m. till 7 on all these days. The target is to have the marina work completed by June 17th. However, in the event that the work is delayed, then sufficient budget would be considered for the long weekend in July. In terms of community, a negative visitor experience will negatively affect the local economy. Therefore, additional efforts need to be provided to ensure that boats are launched and loaded in an organized fashion. No staffing resources are available at this time that are suited to the however, the bylaw enforcement contractor is suited to this type of work. Bylaw currently charges $25 an hour for additional work, and working out 7 days at 10 hours per day requires approximately $1,750 to be added to the budget. So our options are to continue the status quo and do not provide additional visitor support in the marina. The second one is to provide additional visitor support in the marina by hiring additional Bylaw services to a maximum of $2,000. And the third is to provide the services to a lesser or greater amount depending on council's wishes at this time. We're recommending option 2 to provide us some flexibility in terms of meeting the needs based on what the construction is. And it could very well be that we find that, you know, if it works well in May and we're extended, you know, we may have to do something in June or that, but at least we have some flexibility.
Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move option number 2, that we provide additional visitor support services in the marina area by hiring additional Bylaw services to a maximum of $2,000.
Councillor Kreimiller, seconding. Discussion on this. Councillor Rhodes first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I don't have too much to say about it, but we have been a little bit, we are definitely behind schedule down there, and I think our tour season will be coming pretty predominant in that area really soon, and whatever we can do to help organize and point people in the right direction and that type of thing is more than warranted. I'm very much in favor of this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Chadsey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support this absolutely, but I'm wondering if this is just one part of the contingency plan. Like we did have discussions that there would be brochures, little maps to show people where the boat trailer parking is, temporary signage at the boat trailer. So this is just one part of the contingency plan. So, and that would lead me to my next question. Is 2,000 enough, or do you need some more money for?
My sense is we can find the rest internally. There would probably be something we'd do internally, create a brochure of some sort that can be handed out on site.
Okay.
And, you know, if anything, maybe some signage that we may be required, we should be able to find that in-house.
Okay. Super.
I was wondering if while we're on that, even if there was big fluorescent arrows coming out of the trailer park, you know, and heading to the left down to Cottonwood Lake, and whether you'd maybe you need something on shore. There was a discussion about having a buoy on shore, like a big blow-up buoy that they use for the races, they use for Ironman, so that the boating people could come in. You know, like we're going to have the person take the trailer there and then go boating, then the wife in the boat would know where to come to. Just some thoughts, but not part of the resolution.
We can explore those options.
Okay.
But I don't know about a blow up. Then we may need more money then.
Okay. Okay. Any further discussion on this? $2,000 looking as part of a contingency plan starting for the 24th of May, possibly heading into the July 1st long weekend to help with the boat launching issues while we're under construction. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, that's the business part of the meeting closed, other than we have reports, and the one is the cash requirements to run the town. Looking to pay some bills, general accounts in the amount of $277,977.82. In the Sun Bowl Arena account of $4,969.04. And for information to receive, net payroll accounts in the amount of $58,913.28. Motion, please, from Councillor Cronmiller Ryan. Discussion. Hearing none. Adopted by consensus. And that brings us to further reports. And the first one up would be our CAO, Mr. Romanko.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. Just a quick rundown on some of the activities of some of the staff over the last couple of weeks, starting in the community development area. We did host, I think we mentioned earlier, our 12 other resort municipalities this week for our annual meeting, at which time we explored with the provincial government various aspects of the resort municipality program, obviously trying to make it better for us to administer and implement in the community. And as I said earlier, we got glowing reviews of our community and our hospitality, and again, the comments where we raised the bench mark, and it's going to be tough to beat. So Manager Jim Newman also was working on that and continues to work on the summer worker busing proposal. In corporate services, the shortlisting and interviewing for summer students has been done. Apparently we had 30 young students applying for our summer worker positions, and I think those decisions have been made. We've also been working internally with a temporary internal vacancy. The issues of seasonal workers have been keeping Bylaw busy already, and they've been moving them off and out of Strawberry Creek. And there will be a gate installed at the bottom of the Strawberry Creek Road. I think that gate should be installed this week, if not today. is my understanding. Unsightly properties are being followed up on and worked on, and also we'll have the new solid waste calendars out very, very shortly. In terms of planning and development, the Lake Recreation and Commercial Task Force had their 4th meeting on May 6th and continue to discuss water zoning and moving this policy improvement ahead. And on May 9th, staff hosted an open house on the Southeast Meadowlark Urban Design Concepts and Model House Designs. About 12 people attended, mostly from the local area. Comments were received were very, very positive, and we also received very, very positive comments from people like CMHC and other provincial and federal departments that work on projects like this, and complimented our staff on their progressive work in this particular area. And if people are interested in seeing what kind of designs are being looked at, certainly feel free to drop by our Planning and Development office, and all the pictures are there. In terms of public works, they completed demonstrations on vac trucks, and the tender will be going out soon. Tenders have gone out for the recreational sani dump, the Curlew pressure upgrade, and the lakeshore walkway repairs. So they will be opened. The tenders will be opened May 18th, and work continues on the Lions Park, putting in new playground equipment over there. And in recreation, 30 students applied for their jobs, and the decisions have been made there. The refrigerated water fountain is installed at Goodman Park. It's finally there. All the windows are installed at the Sonora Center, and they look really, really good, and certainly will help our energy efficiency. And the Relay for Life has been moved to Gyro Beach at from 12 noon to 12 midnight on June 4th. It'll be a tough go in terms of the referendum date on the vote there. Be a pretty busy area. Myself, I've been preparing for union negotiation meetings coming up in the first week in June, and dealing with contractor and right-of-way issues in the Northwest Sewer Project, and working also with transportation on working through an issue we've had with entry into our industrial subdivision, which I think we've come to resolution on. And last, just a little announcement here that it looks like Wednesday we'll be opening up our boat trailer parking gates for the season. So that's all.
Great. That was a lot of good information, Mr. Mango. Thank you. First counselor would be Counselor Chadsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to comment on McHappy Day last week. It was really fun to work there, and just a special thank you to everyone who emptied out the middle of their car, that boot there where you throw change in. As Mr. Romanko said, June 4th is the Relay for Life. It will be at Gyro Park this year, not Desert Park. And it will go from 12 noon to 12 midnight, so you don't have to worry about hauling your RV up there and staying overnight. June 4th is also the referendum. I look at it as a real positive. The voting is at the Senior Center, and the Senior Center is right in Gyro Park. All of that area will be the walking path. It will be so much easier for everyone to just simply go down and vote in the referendum, or go to the referendum and then go on to the Relay for Life. The Relay for Life is so important, and there's so much to do down there, and I'm going to ask that everybody take the opportunity to go down. If you're not part of the team and you only want to go down for a half hour or an hour, go. Just walk the track once or twice, take your loose change, throw it in the blue toilet that we have there. Enjoy the entertainment, enjoy the food, enjoy the community spirit. It is such an important time, and we're trying to We're trying to use Gyro Park as a gathering place for the community, for the residents of this community. And what better time is to do it than the Relay for Life, and what a better opportunity to see the location of the museum, to consider an alternate location, which I personally support, and to vote in the referendum, however which way you personally feel. Congratulations to Councillor Cronmiller on his election to Silga. And just one more thing, on a personal level, I went to the memorial service for Greg Tweedy, who was an employee of the town for 37 years. And if you can have wonderful memorial services, this very much was. The people who spoke were genuine, and I walked away there wishing that I had known Greg a bit better than I did. But we will miss him, and that is my report.
Thanks, Councillor Chadsey. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to draw attention to the building report results. We kind of went right by that. And the fact that the permit totals for the month of April, in fact, tripled our year-to-date figure. I think that was pretty significant achievement in our community. So we're getting back up there, well behind last year, but getting up there. So every month that goes by, it gets a little bit better. So the May long weekend is coming up, and that kind of traditionally marks the start of our tourist season in Osoyoos. And at this time of the year, many residents become very, very apprehensive about the influx of people and the impact that they have in our town. So I'd like to bring attention to the fact that tourism is about people who come to our town to enjoy our amenities. A few times tonight you've heard everybody talk about the amenities in our town. And, you know, it's really, really important to understand that tourism is our largest industry. And many, many businesses have invested millions of dollars in our community so that vacationers can enjoy their stay with us. Osoyoos really is a popular and highly sought-after destination by BC residents, Western Canadians, and lots of international travelers. And as we live our lives in Osoyoos, we often forget this fact and have a tendency to become very complacent and casual about this. It's important for us to send the correct message to our tourists. How we act as residents often determines whether or not vacationers and families will return to our community. A simple hello, a warm smile, offering directions to your favorite restaurant or store, and most importantly, showing respect for those will often go a long ways in ensuring that we live up to our brand, Canada's warmest welcome. Tourism is what gives Osoyoos its charm and allows us as residents to enjoy everything that it has to offer. And I'd really, really like to ask everybody to protect it because it really is our most important and valuable commodity.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'd like to give some congratulations, and first would be to the Royal LePage team for their garage sale. They didn't have the best day to do it, but I commend them for it, and I hope that they were satisfied with the results, which will support the Desert Sun Counseling and the safe house that they have. And also congratulations to Lloyd Fairweather and his singing, his choir and singers. They put on a wonderful concert, and it should have been a standing room only one like the Christmas one. But anyway, they are getting better and better. So congratulations to them. And as Councillor Chadsey said, we lost Greg Tweedy, one of our staff in the town, and certainly condolences to his wife and family I want to just tell you about why I'm voting for the museum. I hope you can see my little badge here. It says I'm a museum supporter. I love the museum. And I just want to tell you why I'm voting for it. Everybody has to make their own mind up, and hopefully you're reading all the information. And if you haven't got a little pamphlet, you can get one at the town hall. We have a nice little pamphlet at the front desk. It'll give a lot of questions and give you a lot of information. But first of all, it's really important for us to preserve our heritage. Part of the tourism that's developing throughout the world is what's called sort of cultural tourism, and part of that is the history and the culture and the background of places where people go for holidays. And so, you know, it's one thing to come here and to sort of see that there are wineries and beaches and so on, but it's really important to know a little bit more about how it got founded and why there is a little replica of Mount Triglav over at the Pioneer Walkway, and know something about why there's a Portuguese mural over at our Sonora Center, and to find out more about them. So not only for our visitors, but for our residents as well. People come here from other places. They don't always know how Osoyoos came to be and how it got its name and what the background and history of it is. Secondly, it's another amenity for our visitors as well, and it's something for them to do while they're here. Right now, it's not a very pleasant place to go. It's a little bit scary. And it's like an oven in the summer and like a freezer in the winter. So we're going to make it a better place if the referendum is successful. And definitely the cost to buy that building and the lots and the parking is going to be far less than trying to build something new. So it's really wonderful. It's a solid place, as Councillor Rhodes said once. If there's ever any kind of an attack or a nuclear blast, that's where you want to be. You want to be in that building. If it succeeds, one of the added things as far as I'm concerned is if it is a successful referendum, the town, in addition to what is being acquired for the museum, the town is going to go ahead and buy 2 more small lots that are adjacent to it to kickstart our affordable housing. We certainly need that, and we're very excited about it. So you got more than one reason to support that, and I hope you'll read about it. I hope you'll be as convinced as I am, and it's going to be good for our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Cronmiller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I always find it interesting and curious about how many people see us when we get to this part of the program, when the meeting has gone on for 2.5 hours, and I'm thinking, so how many people are left to want to hear about did Cronmiller talk about whatever? I'm not sure, but I had a few things that I did want to mention. Some of them have been talked about, and some of them haven't. So I'll certainly first working at McDonald's has took me back to memories of my children, both of whom worked at McDonald's as teenagers, and it's always fun to go there and even just to commend McDonald's for the work they do with Ronald McDonald House in Vancouver and their projections to expand it and do a lot more work within the community. Building a new one in Abbotsford as well. So I commend them for that. I also wanted to mention that about Greg Tweedy, the loss of our staff member here at the town. 37 years he worked here for us, and a team member all the way, and just a great guy. I have such fond memories of him, and certainly he's going to be missed, and my condolences to his family. And I also wanted to talk about the museum. I wanted to stand up and be counted as a counselor, not just as a council that we do things, but as an individual, to say that, as Councillor Ryan said, and I think all of us would say individually, that this is something that's really important to our community. And I think as we move ahead and improve the way our community looks, improve the way our waterfront looks, it's really important to do this and to build a new museum. I think that Councillor Ryan mentioned the history of our community, and I thought about it and made note that so many of us are always interested in our family genealogy. And we travel to other places and we look at cemeteries and old buildings. We look at, I talked to somebody the other day, talked about being in Europe and looking at things from the First World War. Well, if we don't preserve some of these things in a building that people can have access to, what happens to history is lost. And I think when I first came to Osoyoos, how important it was to know about Osoyoos and know about the history of it and what is here and what's going on. So I really think it's important for us to have a great museum. And I look back and think back to our to the people that have worked on the museum and worked there, and I think, wow, they put a lot of time and effort into that building and tried hard to make it a great place. And now we're going to even make it better with a new building. And I think anybody who really is concerned about money that costs, or the concerned about whether we need one or whether it's in the right place and all those things, should contact a counselor and be informed about the reasons why we're doing some of the things we're doing and the advantages to having it where it is and the opportunity that we have to purchase. So I'm really on that trail today. And last but not least, I want to say goodbye. For lack of a better word. When we talk about SILGA and my opportunity to be on that board, I was thinking that we always sit on, we have conferences, conventions that we go to and represent the town. And whether they're big or small, it's always important that we have representation, I think. And so this week I'm leaving for St. John's, Newfoundland on Wednesday to represent the South Okanagan RCMP Veterans Association at a convention in St. John's this weekend. And then 2 weeks after that, I'm representing the town at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Convention in Halifax. So my wife and I will be away for an extended period, and if all things being equal, you might hear from me on the 6th on a phone, and we can participate in a council meeting. And if not, you'll know that I'm busy with FCM because it's just the end of it at that time. So it's it'll be a busy time for us away, and just a couple council. Chair will be vacant. And my last words: go Canucks, go!
Thanks, Councillor Cronmiller. I think I'm just going to catalog a few things I've done. It's been a very, very busy couple of weeks, but not that busy that I didn't get a couple of rounds of golf in anyway. So that helps. Started out after our last council meeting, and on Tuesday I attended the Okanagan Basin Water Board in Kelowna. That's one of my regulars, and I chair that Okanagan Basin Water Board. And then left from there and went over to Merritt for that SILGA conference that I had talked about earlier in this council meeting. They're really good meetings, and we were getting information set up for the UBCM. But one of the better components that I find is the networking with the other mayors and councillors and what's going on in their communities. And what we're going to do, maybe take on political action and things like that. I know there was quite a bit of discussion with Dan Ashton and the regional folks over the bid from the Osoyoos Indian Band to get the prison. And it's those kind of things that really you can start working on when you're at some of these conferences. It was very, very valuable. Friday of that week, got back to town, and I went over and greeted the Okanagan Nations runners. That was from this region of the Colville Band, and they ran, and they came into Spirit Ridge, and I saw them there. And then I did a welcome to the Toastmasters that were having a conference at Spirit Ridge, and they were matched right out. There wasn't a seat in the place, and I think that's 235 people, maybe 240 that they do in that conference center. And that was real exciting, having to do a welcoming speech to the Toastmasters. You know, I was looking at my feet and everything else, how I was going to make out. I never did get graded, so But that was good fun, and of course there was people from Osoyoos that were here, and they don't meet out of big areas very often, so there was a lot of convincing to come for here, and they just loved the facility and the town and everything that they were being greeted with. Last Monday there was a little public hearing. We ran about 3 bylaws through or at the public hearing process. McHappy Days was great. I followed my McHappy Days stint with the citizenship ceremony, and was that special? Absolutely. This was at the Sonora Center. There was 59 people, 25 countries that were welcomed as new Canadians, took the oath. The citizenship judge was there, RCMP in their tunics, and it was really, really moving to see those people. And there was some Osoyoos people there that were sort of a bit of a surprise. I think everyone in town thought they were citizens, and now they are. But again, it was so moving to see the people, and they all stand up and take that oath. Very, very special. And the 25 countries, Argentina, Israel, some of those new countries in Southeast Asia, and I'm trying to think of the one that starts with Myanmar, and they were true refugees. I think they were under siege. There was governments wanting to do some bad things to them, but yeah, very, very, very special day. And followed that up with another little welcoming to the Resort Municipality group that came to town. This was with Mr. Romanko and our Economic Development Manager, Jim Newman. And as Mr. Romanko said, they put on a bang-up show for the people here in the Resort Municipality. And there's provincial bureaucrats there, so it's always good to get them into a great town and give them a warm welcome. Couple of meetings about the Osoyoos Lake Water Science Forum. This is basically hammered together now. I see there's an email coming in on final budget issues. So again, this is the 19th and 20th of September, and I've seen the agenda, and the topics being offered are a must for everybody, and for the citizens of Osoyoos, Orville, and Oliver, it's $50, and you're going to get a breakfast and you're going to get a lunch, and this is mandatory. Do not miss. The material that's going to be presented is absolutely just so great about Osoyoos Lake. So I had a couple of meetings on that. I sit on 2 committees there, both financial and the local steering committee. At 11:30 that day, I met with Minister Falcon, who was up for the Liberal Convention in Penticton, and I went with a group from here that are concerned about the HST ramifications as it applies to the building industry, and we certainly have a backlog of inventory here, and whether that's the cause of it, I don't know, but they requested I attend with them. They led the meeting, but I certainly did go to attend them to share our concern of what's happening with our resort municipality. A lot of it's second suites and things like that, and unsold properties. The museum AGM, I just stopped in on that briefly because I had to attend that memorial and wanted to attend that memorial for Greg Tweedy. Wow, when you've lived here that long and you go through that sudden passing, the number of old Osoyoos people that came out was really, really incredible. It was a very, very moving memorial to, it was very, very, very moving. And I think that's, with Mark Pendergraft, I did meet with a couple of people, bylaw enforcement of Crown lands, and some of the forestry enforcement people on fires, the Strawberry Creek situation. And, as Mr. Romanko said, that gate's going ahead, and I think that's going to be the start of solving some of our issues up in that area. So it will be a locked gate. We didn't talk about anybody getting access to it that needed it, Mr. Romanko.
My understanding is that they've talked to all the provincial government people who need access, and then the gun people and emergency services. They'll all have the access code or system to get in.
Okay, and if there's a breakdown of communication and we've missed somebody, I'm sure that you could contact Mr. Amanko through front office, Town of Osoyoos, and that your request would be dealt with. So, having said that, I've got another special night this Thursday. I'm going to be on a panel in Penticton with Maud Barlow. So I'm really excited about it. It's going to be Anna Warwick-Sears and Tom Siddon, a retired federal cabinet minister, and little old me. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be basically her current kick is who owns the water? Who's going to own the water as we look at mega businesses and governments and things like that? Because it's a more and more valuable commodity all the time. So I'm looking forward to that. It should be a real good time Thursday night in Penticton at the Chatford Auditorium, I believe. Yeah. That is my report. Thank you very much. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Chad Z. Rhodes. All in favor? Good afternoon, folks.
Thank you, Val. Oh, did it? Oh, no.